Have you ever wondered what actions you need to take to achieve your goals, your business goals, your life goals, the things that matter to you? You have to put in the work, and many of you are willing to do that if you just knew what it meant to do the work. What inputs will get you the outputs, the outcomes that you want? Hi, I'm Amira Alvarez. I am the founder and CEO of The Unstoppable Woman. And in this episode of the Unstoppable Woman podcast, we are diving in deep to what it means to put the right inputs in, the right actions to get the right results. Let's talk about what it means to do the work. Listen in and let's get started. Hello, hello, and welcome to another episode of the Unstoppable Woman podcast. Today's topic is all about what it means to do the work. This is one of my favorite concepts, and I'm really excited to elaborate on it today. So, the topic came to me because we have a great marketing team, and they were asking me about the results that we get in our different programs. And we get amazing results, right? People regularly increase their income within the first 90 days, doubling, tripling, sometimes five timesing their income in the first 90 days, depending on where they're starting, of course. And sometimes over the course of the first year, we get great results. And they asked me, what's the percentage of the results that people get? Like, how many people get great results? And, does everyone? And I was like, everyone who does the work will get the results that they want. Everyone. And so the question came back then, what does it mean to do the work? And I answered from a superficial level to the person asking the question. They need to work on this and they need to do this, and we have this component of this program, and if they work this, it has this result. But fundamentally, let's talk about what it means to do the work, right? Because it's a larger concept than just being a good student in school and dotting the I's and crossing the T's. Yes, I want you to keep your word to yourself. Yes, if you say you're going to do something, I want you to do it. And generally speaking, well, that's the whole concept here. If you're not getting the results that you want right now, you're not doing the work that's required to get those results or those outcomes. So if you tell me what you want, I will tell you what kind of actions you need to put into place. This is the law of cause and effect. It's one of the primary universal laws that you have to understand in order to grow your business and your life, quite frankly. If you are not getting the results that you want, it means that you haven't yet put the right causes into play. And most people do not understand this concept. They do the work that is getting them the results that they are currently experiencing. They are not doing the work at a higher level, raising their capacity, expanding how they're being. So they're not getting that next level result. And I want you all to know that this doesn't have to look like overwhelm. I don't have an overwhelmed life. Sometimes I have a full life, right? Like I'm like, oh, gotta triage my calendar. That said, my approach to the work has changed over the years. I had to change who I was being so I could be someone who could ever expand her capacity and do the work at that higher level without being in overwhelm. Let's first start talking about what are the outcomes that you want. Many people want additional revenue, additional income. So write that down. What's the income outcome that you want? Super, super important. But maybe there are also life experiences, life outcomes that you want. And I have a very strong stance that you have to go through the journey of learning how to up level who you're being and what you're doing so that you can make the money that you want. And in that process, You are also going to want to concurrently up level the outcomes in the other areas of your life. Otherwise, they get left behind and you give me the stink eye when we're working together because you're like, I'm making more money, but my life isn't great and I'm not available for that. I want you, our community, our Unstoppable Woman community, to really understand that yes, the income goals need to be like the 80-20 in the beginning. But if you completely forget the lifestyle, the experiences that you want, you won't be having a whole life that is of value to you, that you love, that you see as worthy of putting in all the effort for. So the first concept, know what you want, know what your outcomes are that you want, and then take 100% personal responsibility and understand that if you're not getting the results that you want or the outcomes that you want, you're not putting the right inputs in. You're not putting the right causes in play. And if you can take 100% responsibility right in that moment and recognize that you are at cause, then you can change. That is doing the work. Most people give this lip service. Most people say, I don't want to change what I'm doing, change my beliefs, change who I'm being, change my self-image, change my actions, change my capacity. Most people say, I don't want to do that, and come up with an excuse that seems rational to them of why they can't do X, Y, and Z new input, and they get the same results that they've always gotten. So you have to take 100% personal responsibility. This is the law of cause and effect. If you think that you're outside of the law of cause and effect, you are sorely mistaken. No one is. Okay, so you really have to own this. We live in an ordered universe. The universe works according to law and it's ordered. It's ultimately ordered. You might see some chaos from a certain vantage point, but ultimately it's always working towards more life, which is order. Okay, which is order. So you need to put yourself in alignment with the order of the universe and order yourself, which means you have to get very clear about what the inputs are that you have to put in. So let's talk about this next, because this is really where doing the work comes in. So, new inputs. New inputs are what you do and who you're being. Fundamentally, two categories. Okay, they're intimately connected. Okay, because you won't do new things if you don't change who you're being. Okay, and the B actually comes first. Okay, the B actually comes first. Who you're being, how you're showing up. Okay, your energy, your attitude, your perspective, your beliefs, how you are being, your beingness comes first. Now, when I say comes first, I don't want you to go off the rails and think that you don't have to take action, because you do. So I want you to think of the changes in your level of being, how you're showing up, and the changes in the actions that you're taking as parallel paths happening concurrently. Now, just like we can't multitask, meaning like we can't think two thoughts at the same time, we can alternate quickly, but we can't actually focus on two thoughts at the same time. It's the same thing with being and doing to a degree, right? You need to focus on the being for a period of time, 15, 20 minutes, get clear. Maybe it's an hour of clarity. And then you have to work the doing side, the action side. That working of the action side, you'll get feedback and results, and you'll realize that you have to up level your beingness. If you keep working that iterative process and closing the gap on time on that, you will be successful. So doing the work is both a be and a do. Okay, you can't ignore the do, which is the action, the outer world actions, and you can't ignore the be, which is the changing your self-image, your self-worth, how you see yourself, your paradigms, your beliefs about yourself, others, the world, and how you're showing up in this world. So when I talk about being willing to do the work, you must be willing to change. Now, How quickly do you want to achieve your outcome? If you tell me you want that now, then you need to expedite your willingness to change, because that is going to expedite your outcomes. If you drag your feet and stay in the story around, I can't do that because, and you're unwilling to change, or you're unwilling to change quickly, you don't make decisions quickly, you put things off, you say, I don't need that now, I can do that later, or I don't have time, then, and those are just a few very common stories, then you won't get the outcome that you want as quickly as you want. You can change slowly and get different outcomes, but most people lose their motivation when they don't change quickly because they don't see the new outcomes as quickly as they want. Okay, so let's look at what some of the new actions might be, some of the new do's. So accountability. You have to keep your word to yourself, keep your commitments to yourself, own your calendar, follow up, all of that. Okay. You need better organization and planning. Okay. Most people don't know how to claim a goal and then back engineer the steps that are required to achieve that. They go off the rails, or they get lost in some distraction, or they go like chasing after a shiny object. Okay. So planning and organization is the antidote to chaos and overwhelm and confusion. Clarity on goals, priorities, and desires. Business plans, marketing strategies, next steps, what to focus on. If you need to get clarity, that's an input, okay? Clarity is an input. Many people don't know how to clarify this because they have some nervous energy underneath the surface that is fogging out their ability to get super clear. Okay, so you need to do that. That's an input. Okay, hiring, delegating, decision making, investing in yourself, investing in your business. Those are all new inputs to get new outputs. Okay, so think about that. Maybe that's something that you need to do right now. So to answer the marketing teams, and I like to close the loop, I'm going to send them this recording on it, but to answer their question about what does it mean to do the work, right, that they asked about. So in our flagship program, we have an accountability program, we have strategic planning, we have masterminding, we have a creation playbook that helps you show up, right? It answers all these new input questions because I've studied success and I see where people go off the rails. Now, some people might need to focus more on one aspect of this than others, but we have a cohesive program of new inputs that get people new outputs. And if they actually work them, meaning do them, they will get new outcomes. They will hit their 90-day goals. They'll hit their annual goals. They will feel better about themselves. They'll look at themselves and go, wow, I feel like a totally new person. Okay, so now some of the B things that you have to keep in mind. You need to be someone that works at a higher level than where you're at right now, period, full stop. And this is going to feel like oil and water because your self image, your identity is not yet at that next level. Your identity is at the level that you're working at right now, which is not a value statement. It's not saying you're good or you're bad because you're at this level versus this level. It's just the law of vibration at play. You will only get the results that come at the level that you're being at. Okay? So you have to look at this. And this is 1,000% more challenging than the do. And it determines whether you're going to take action on all the do activities. Because if you start going into the story of doing all these things is going to be so overwhelming, and we all go there, okay? But if you see that, if you know how to work the process, and you see that, and you're like, actually, I want to be here, and the person who's here doesn't fall into the story, you've now changed who you're being, and you have to take action from that new place. It doesn't work to just give it lip service and make it a contemplation. You actually have to take new action from that new place. Otherwise, it's magical thinking. And we don't want that. We want true outcomes. Okay. So you have to be someone you're currently not showing up as, and it's going to feel like oil and water when you start trying to move to that next level. Okay. So you have to stay the course. And this is where it gets challenging for people. And they want to go AWOL. They want to isolate. They want to self-sabotage in a number of ways. So I'm constantly pointing out to people, you have to stay in the container and keep doing the work. And sometimes this looks like doing hard things. You're going to be stretched. You're going to have that conversation with your team member or your life partner. You're going to have to expand your capacity and do more than you think that you can do, and change how you're seeing it. You have to become more, right? You have to become a larger version of yourself and be vulnerable in that self-expression. You have to grow your capacity. We've talked about that a lot. And this is going to require stretching yourself, and all of it's going to feel like oil and water. And this is where the real work comes in, and where many people give up. And it's where I want to emphasize the 80% of doing the work is you have to stay the course. Okay. This is where people say, I want the outcome, but they're unwilling to change. Okay. And I've experienced that. So please do not think that you are unique in this, but you have to learn how to change that. Okay. And fundamentally, I don't see people changing that on their own because they're in the forest, they can't see the trees. Classic experience. It's really important to get an outside perspective on this. And I want to give you a few tips on how to look at this yourself. Okay. So, how would you know if you're unconsciously, so you're in the forest, right? You can't see the trees. How do you know if you're unconsciously not up leveling, not actually doing the work? So, fundamentally, you have the same issues that keep coming back to you. Same issues with team, same issues with life partners, same issues with revenue or income. Maybe you have up and down cash flow. Maybe you uh, can't get to payroll every month or every third month, and that's an issue. That's a result. That's an outcome that keeps circling back. Maybe it's same issues with stress and overwhelm and chaos, right? And the lack of focus. Maybe you're constantly saying to yourself, I just can't get ahead. Okay. These are all things to look at. What are the patterns in your life and your business? Okay. The second place that I point to you to look at is, where are you spending your time and money? This is super important. Show me your bank account and show me your calendar, and I will tell you exactly what level of awareness you're at and exactly what kind of results you're going to get, because that's an input, and it's one of our major resources, our time and our money. And if you are not investing in your business, you're not investing in yourself, if you're not spending time up leveling who you're being, you're not going to get the results that you want, the outputs. So you have to look at this, and you got to get really honest about it. And this is where the forest for the trees comes in. People tell themselves good stories about this, but they're not accurate. Okay, they're from your current level of awareness, and we want to expand you so that you can get to different outputs. So that gives you a couple different concepts to work with there. I want you to recognize that you need this concept of doing the work, right? That's putting in new inputs. And it's around the doing and the being, even when you think you can't. You must at that point. This is so, so important, especially when you say, I can't, I'll do it later. This is not the right time. I don't have the bandwidth. You have to recognize that if the desire is felt, the supply is ready to appear. If the desire is felt, the solution to your issue is here, and it's here right now. So that, my friends, is what I mean by doing the work. It's about valuing yourself. It's about taking yourself to the very next level. It's about continuous growth. It's about not shaming yourself about where you are now, but holding a higher standard for yourself because you know you want something. And if you were already doing the new things that would get you there, you would already have that result. So it's continuous, compassionate, loving, but all in growth. And you have to be willing to do the work. And I encourage you to be one of the, 1% who actually does the work, who doesn't make up excuses, doesn't tell herself later, next year, in a week, I can't, who is unstoppable in the face of what's required to create the life and the business that she wants. Thanks for listening. Thanks for sharing this episode. We super duper duper appreciate when you share these with your friends and colleagues and get the message out to the world that we can all be unstoppable and we can all step into our greatness. And there is a methodology and a way to do that. So I'm Amira Alvarez. I am the founder and CEO of The Unstoppable Woman. Thanks again for listening, and I'll catch you in the next episode. Take care. Hey, thanks so much for joining us and being part of the Unstoppable Woman movement. We have got a ton of free resources for scaling your business at theunstoppablewoman.com/free stuff. And you can find that link in the description below. So go ahead and check those out. And we'd also love your help in getting our message out to more and more women. If you'd be willing to share this video with all the unstoppable women in your life, that would be fantastic. And while you're at it, hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode. Reviews, likes, and comments are greatly appreciated. We go in and read them all. So thank you for those. And thanks for listening, and be unstoppable.